I think it was made clear that this concept has to do with the scope of protection of varieties. So by creating the notion of essentially the right variety, we create a dependence from the initial variety and essentially the right variety. And we want to give tribute, reward to the initial variety and the initial, to the owner, the breeder of the initial variety. So we believe in our practice that it is not for the CPVO, not for the agency to decide and to test if a variety is EDV or not. It's not our business. So this is the basic principle. What we do if we receive a request is to just enter in our registry the indication that the variety is essentially derived, and of course the indication of the initial variety in relation to the EDV, the denominations, because as Yolanda said, the EDV has to be distinct from the initial variety, and therefore you must adopt a different denomination. It should not be the same denomination, it should be a different denomination. And of course, we will also put in the registry the names of the parties that are involved. We don't examine on technical level if a variety is EDV. It's not our business. We will just acknowledge the information that we receive from the parties. And there is obviously no legal obligation to protect by plant breeders' right an EDV. It's up to the breeders to decide. Okay? So many EDV may escape our knowledge. Why? Because we have never been notified and eventually they have never been protected by plant breeders' right, which might be the case. What is the information that we request the breeders if they want to acknowledge the fact that the variety is an EDV in our registry? We have to get an indication of the act of derivation so they can describe it, for example. And we need the proposal for a denomination because that proposal will be examined by our staff, and we will check the suitability of the denomination as for any other variety that is applied for protection. Same process. We will do the same analysis. We need also kind of a descriptions of the characteristics in which the EDV is considered distinct from the initial variety. So remember that we are not going to test with the technical authority, but we get a kind of a written description. Just that. And then we need the declaration that the EDV is a variety within the meaning, the legal definition of variety, because in any case, we are dealing with a variety, right? So we need also that declaration. And if it exists, because it was eventually tested in the US, we would ask for the official variety description, if it exists. Okay? The request can be done either jointly by the holder of the initial variety and the breeder of the EDV. That's the easier case, because they agree. There is no conflict between the initial variety holder and the EDV breeder. So they jointly come to us. They sign voluntarily. That's the perfect situation. There is no litigation, no conflict, no doubt. So both sign the request and we acknowledge it. However, this is not the most frequent case. The second option is that only one person will come to us and say, okay, And in that case, we need an acknowledgement of the other party. We will ask the other party to confirm or not. Or if there is complete disagreement between the parties, we would wait for a judgment. So this is a matter for the breeders to solve the issue, and they have to go to court. If they don't settle between them, if they disagree, if there is no agreement, they would have to go to court, which is something I would not advise to do. It's better if they settle together, and eventually if they use arbitration systems, such as the system created by the International Seed Federation. Collaboration in this field is much better because remember that we don't have, or it's hardly thinkable that you have such a specialized courts where they can really understand this matter and have the knowledge, and they would have to appoint technical experts, and this would complicate the matter. So it's better if they find an amicable agreement between them. Okay, when we have the same entity making the request for the EDV, and we see that it's the same company or the same person as initial breeder, holder of the initial variety, we will refuse. Because the concept here is to acknowledge that there are two different breeders, and the breeder of the EDV is not the same of the initial variety. So there should be no interest in asking for a registration if it is the same entity. Okay? We got cases, we had cases, and we refused. And any such decision can be subject to appeal. So all the decisions that we take as first instance, including these kind of decisions, can be appealed, and we have an independent board of appeal that is the quasi-judiciary body that takes decision on second instance also on these matters. We have never had an appeal on a refusal of registration of an EDV. Never happened. No. Appeals, no. Refusal of registration, yes, but appeals not. Yeah, I can. So, as we said several times, it's not a matter for PVP office to decide if a variety is an EDV or not. We are in the field of the scope of the right. It's because of that we believe that it's a matter that has to be sorted out between the title holder of the breeder's right in the initial variety concerned and the EDV breeder. We believe that this is the right approach, and in the group of countries, there are many countries that follow this principle. Yes, yes. And the title holder of the initial variety may consider predominant derivation or conformity of the essential characteristics. So it's a kind of, may I say, a due diligence approach from the breeder of the initial variety. And those are, in any case, very important starting points to arrive at a conclusion and an assessment whether the second variety is in reality an EDV or not. Now, we have few cases in courts in Europe, and not only in Europe, outside of Europe, very few cases. And I would say that with the adoption of the new explanatory note, we'll see what will be the impact. And for that reason, there will be a kind of a monitoring in terms of what is the expected impact in the change of the interpretation of the concept in the explanatory note. And I think that was a very good initiative to keep on the agenda this update of the concept for the years to come, to see what has been and what will be the impact. Yeah, Thank you very much.